Got a dream in a tear last night, watched the world fade out of sight. Seen the ghosts of time preside, eagles soared and falcons cried. Sleeping phoenix on a rise. Abundance and strange disguise. Hello, and welcome to Phoenix Rising. And this week, I would really like to talk about religion. You know, it's one of those subjects that you're not supposed to ever talk about because people really get upset, and there's all kinds of people all over this planet, as we well know, that get really upset the moment that you bring up the subject of religion, but you can't avoid it, can you? We live in the age of the cross of planning. This age of cross of planning is rooted in the channel 4037. It's a channel of community, it's the channel of the bargain, but it's also part of the human mystical process. And as we move closer to 2027 and the mutation that's taking place in the 55th gate and the changing of or the ending of this cycle and the emergence of the sleeping phoenix, the 4037, which has been a bedrock of the way in which life has operated on this plane for hundreds and hundreds of years, is going to come to an end, and it's going to deeply impact the world of religion, spirituality, however one wants to phrase those things. Think about the 4037 as a background frequency. The 37th gate is the gate that yearns for God. It looks for something that is going to protect it. It looks for a union with a greater force. It is why we have in so much of our, religious dogma this concept that it is the will of God. The 37th gate is pointed at the 40th gate. It's pointed at will. It's pointed at that great power that it's there, and it's always looking for that power. And on the other side, you have the 40th gate, and the 40th gate, deliverance, is the gate of denial. It says there is no God. I mean, show me, prove it to me. This is the other side of the coin. And when you bring the 4037 together, you get this bridge, you get this possibility of some larger answer to those questions that dominate the themes of the 37 and the 40. We can see now, as the cross of planning is coming to an end, that there are stronger and stronger forces on either side of this channel. The forces that yearn for and need the presence of their God, and forces suddenly quite loud and public that are expressing the very denial of such a thing. It places a great stress on the psyche of humanity. The 4037 is part of a stream. It's rooted in the 19th and the 49th gate, this channel of a synthesis. The 19th gate is a pressure. It's a pressure to need food and shelter, to need a God. And the 49th gate at the other end of that, it is the controller of those resources, of the food, of the shelter. It is the gate that carries the fear of God, or not. All of this is being transformed in these times. All of this is being challenged. And the 1949 is a channel that is functioning under deep, deep pressure. It's slowly breaking down. The fundamentalism that we see in the world, the radicalization of belief, is a very byproduct of this infrastructure breaking down. We're seeing a reaction, as we will see many, many reactions as the cross of planning slowly comes to an end and something new arises. And this background frequency that has held us so tightly to our belief systems, this is breaking down as well. Human design is about your authority. It's not a religion. It's not spirituality. It's mechanics. And in these mechanics, it's possible to see that each being has the potential to live the perfection of their life through their own authority. Their own authority. Anyway, by the way, I should add that this week, on Friday, I'm going to be in London. I'm going to be there for the weekend. Certainly looking forward to it. So I hope to see all my old friends and new friends as well in London this coming weekend. And now, let's get on with the show.
Hello, welcome to Sharing, Empowering, and today particularly to the supporting part. Well, you know, like I said the other time, these three keynotes, their definition is so deeply, deeply rooted in the relationship they have with the human ego. And of course, support is all about the ego circuit. It really is everything is oriented towards the ego, that human factor. And I think the clearest way to define this keynote of support is through its twin keynote, that is need. Need. It's the driving force of the material process. But first of all, you know, the ego circuit of support, to see that it is, out of those three keynotes, the only one that literally does not touch the mind. It bypasses the mind. There is nothing in the ego circuit that is in touch with anything that is oriented towards the mind. And in that sense, you know, we really have to understand that if the mind is the civilizing medium, you know, the ego, the heart center, is that place, you know, where the mind cannot enter, the mind has no process, that part that always remains uncivilized to one level or another. And that is why ego and egoism has always had such a bad rap in the collective, you know, on the mundane plane, unless you are in touch with the mechanics. Because the thing that humanity never understood about the ego is not, you know, the need for support, you know, support this, support that. Everyone's looking for supporters, but, you know, what about the personal needs? Because this is what the ego is all about. It's needs. And you see, need is that one thing that strikes our most irrational chords, because there is no way that the mind, particularly the homogenized mind, knows how to make sense out of need and the way need is being dealt with in the world. There is no way that scientifically, you know, if you look at the way humanity deals with need scientifically, well, you know, you're not going to have a very good opinion about humanity, are you? And if you look at humanity, you know, at your own personal needs from the individual perspective, and you're not operating correctly through your form principle, oh, the way humanity deals with need is going to look rather disempowering to you. You see, need is what brings up the beast in us, you know, because, well, we all have to deal with the fact that material resources are unavoidably, painfully necessary, you know, and that survival comes first, and out of that, you know, through the not-self, the whole materialistic approach that cuts us literally off from magic, from love. I mean, look at the ego circuit, you know. No G, no sacral, no mind. Need. You know, need is an inner demand of the form. In a way, it is the only place where, you know, it's what strategy and authority bring us naturally in touch with, because need is an underlying quality of the form principle, demanding to be, you know, manifesting itself, self or not self, distorted or genuinely. These keynotes, support and need as a twin. Sharing and desire as twin keynotes. Empowering and undecisiveness. They are so deep. They are so deep. I'll show you next week a practical example of that through my own design. Until then, have a jolly flow.
Hello, and welcome to your weekly neutrino forecast. This week, we begin the week with the Sun in the 5 and the Earth in the 35. On the 10th, it'll change to the 26 and the 45, change over to the cross of rulership. But let's go back for a moment to the 5 and the 35. Think about what it's like to have the Sun in the 5th gate. It's really something to grasp. You've got this incredible impact in the neutrino ocean coming down, 70% of the programming coming from our Sun. There's the Sun putting all that energy, information, data energy into the 5th gate. In terms of the way in which the program operates, everybody out there in the world, the way in which they're filtering that is that this is activating the 5th gate in their design. Now, for example, if you have the 15th gate, then it's going to activate the whole channel. Suddenly, you're going to get all this sacral energy that's going to be pouring through it. In other words, changes are going to take place in the dynamics of the way in which you're going to operate. Most people are not aware of these things taking place. But think about somebody who doesn't have the 15, doesn't have the 5. And the Sun comes along, there it is in the 5th gate. It's going to be there for another 3 or 4 days. The 5th gate is about habits and patterns. So let's say that the Sun is there in the 5th gate and a friend of yours invites you or asks you or whatever the case may be to participate in some kind of exercise group or something. Because the 5th gate is there, it can feel essentially correct for you, because when the 5th gate is in somebody's design, there's always a need for consistency in their patterns and for habits to be established in the process. So here's that person that gets involved in that group. Of course, on the 10th, a few days later, when the Sun is going to shift away from the 5 and go into the 26, that thing isn't going to be there anymore. That's when their friend calls them up next week and says, hey, you didn't show up. And they try to come up with some kind of an excuse about why they didn't or whatever. It was just a transit. But the thing I want you to focus on today is the nodes of the moon. Eh? And when you're looking at the nodes of the moon, you have the south node and you have the north node, and they're always in opposition to each other. Here we have this week with the north node in the 15.5 and the south node in the 10.5. So we're looking at this polarity. Now, when you're looking at the nodes in the program, what it's really saying to you is this is the way in which the whole world is being conditioned to see. To see. Now, what we're looking at is we're looking at seeing through 5th lines. 5th lines are heretical. They're heretical. They can be both positive and negative in that sense, but they are heretical. When you're looking at the 15.5, you're looking at heretical extremism. And when you're looking at the 5th line with the 10th gate, you're looking at the 10th gate as the gate of behavior, and it's the gate of behavior, and that line is the line of the heretic. So what are we here to see? We're here to see extreme behavior. It's something that's going to be there. It's one of those things where you get extreme behavior in the news, and it's a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of what's going on, but it's what everybody gets to actually see. The program controls how you see. And of course, if you're not self, what you see can result in you thinking that you have to do something about what you see, and then you are lost. That's why you have a strategy and authority. You're not here to be ruled by the program. Nobody is. It doesn't matter what is going on in the wheel. What matters is how you make decisions as yourself. And when you do, then the weather, well, it's for your pleasure. Bye for now. There's this tendency in people. It's one of the oddities that I see about the nature of being. It's this tendency to want to be on one side or another of what is a fundamental duality. That is, the nature of the mind is that the mind is always measuring, and it's always measuring this and that. And in terms of the way in which the not-self operates, the not-self is always assuming that the this or the that is better than the this or the that. There's always this, selection game that is going on in terms of the mind. I want to talk about type. And I want to talk about type within a duality, what it is to be a duality, and what it is to understand that the thing that makes you a certain type is something that's deep within your biology. Every type has a theme. These themes are now common. That is, the frustration of a generator, the bitterness of a projector, the anger of a manifester, the disappointment of a reflector. These are called not-self themes. And there is an assumption in this naming that these themes themselves are to be eliminated entirely. Well, it's not true. On the other side of these themes is what's called signature. That is, the possibility that is there inherent in type. That is, to be satisfied as a generator, to be a success as a projector, to find peace as a manifester, to meet surprise as a reflector. This is the other side of that coin. But it's not a matter of, well, it's one or the other. It's not a matter that if you're going to be a generator, that you're always going to be satisfied. It's not the way in which it works. It's like a seesaw. Really, it's like a seesaw. And it's not about finding the balance in the center. Truly, it is not. It is about all the possibilities of the various levels that can be there in that seesaw. More satisfaction than frustration. More success than bitterness. More peace than anger. More surprise than disappointment. It's as that seesaw begins to tilt towards the positive, towards the signature, that you have a signpost that says, your life is in transformation. It's what it's all about. Follow your strategy and authority. And in following your strategy and authority, be a witness to this changing of the seesaw. Be a witness to this transformation of what has been the dominant theme in your process, suddenly finding its signature. It's a beautiful thing to experience.
Got a dream in a tear last night, watched the world fade out of sight. Seen the ghosts of time preside, eagles soared and falcons cried. Sleeping phoenix on the rise. Abundance and strange the skies.